have interest in appearing on the show, or if they have certain questions or comments, suggestions, feedback, we'd love to hear from you.
All right. Excellent. We're going to go around the room and introduce everyone. We're going to start with the bunker fellas, Tommy, Justin, and
Tommy Two-Tone.
Dirty Dan. Thank you for all your efforts and getting together, transitioning to a Wednesday night. Difficult. Appreciate everyone showing up. And as we go into the community entertainment, let me pose the question that I want everyone to try to answer. Just, it doesn't have to have a lot of depth or defense of it, but who is your current hero? H-E-R-O. Do you have if you have one, some people may not. Who would you refer to as a current hero? I'm saying this again a couple of times so it resonates, giving Jim some contemplation time before we introduce Jim Powers, the founder of Michigan Parents for Compassion, and an all-around funny guy. We're happy to have him here tonight. He promised to be funny and answer all the questions we ask him.
I don't know if I'll be funny, but I'm going to need more time on the hero question. To really contemplate it for a minute.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a toughie. It's a toughie.
It's a high bar.
All right. Well, we can come back to you. You can ask for a temporary pass.
Temporary pass.
All right. Okay. Moving around the room, we have next YouTuber sensation and influencer and thought leader. All things cannabis and even beyond that, medical treatments.
Yeah. Yeah.
All things.
Absolutely.
That's right. Please welcome Amanda Joslin. Amanda Joslin.
Thank you, Michael. I'm glad to be here. And as far as heroes are concerned, let me just say that today's kind of a big day, and actually the last several years have been big days because there's an awful lot of women in leadership. Not only in Supreme Court, but we also have some leadership going into, obviously, the White House, and so on and so forth. So either way of the fence you lean on does not matter. What is important, though, is that there are a lot of women being represented, and that's a really powerful thing.
There you go. So basically, your heroes women. Just kidding.
Yeah. Hear us roar today.
Right. That's right.
If we get a day, today is it.
Again, once again, emphasizing the point that Planet Green Trees is a show about truth and justice, and not just some pipe dream like affordable health care. Anyways, moving around the room here, we have our very special friend, guest, funny person. He's wearing a hat today. Got some new shoes too. Maybe do a little dancing, but real popular in the '70s. I think we found a video of him recently of singing some of his old songs. But he's the Rover, all things that here at Komorn Law Organization, retired police detective, and the man who flies like an eagle. Please welcome Steve Miller.
Hello, thank you for the introduction. And so my hero is probably going to sound kind of stupid and cheesy, but it's for good reason. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I defer to, well, there's a couple of things, but one, I defer to the Bill Burr comedy skit on it. That's
awesome.
It says it all. You know, and I followed his health and fitness mantras for a long time. I had his book when I was in high school, The Education of a Bodybuilder, and I followed the exercise routines and diet and still do some of that to this day.
That goes without saying, Steve. We all see you as the physique of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm there, but you know, he's a guy who came over here from a foreign country, could hardly speak the language, decided he was going to become a professional bodybuilder and star in movies.
Right?
Yeah,
like
very talented.
Bill Barr's thing was like, you try to go to Germany, hook up with like the family with the wealthy, with the hot girl, you marry her, you get you star in all these movies, you can't even speak a lick of English,
right.
You become governor of a state that
you can't hardly pronounce the name.
Right.
Then you're going to marry a Kennedy, or
right? You marry like a Kennedy, and
he did it all.
Did it all. 40
years, nothing but net, as Bill Burr says, and that's true. That's just, I mean, and it's simple. It just goes down to the simplicity of, if you put your mind to it, you can do it. You
Yeah.
can
There you go.
accomplish anything. So that's why I state him as my hero, because I think he stands for, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Good answer, Steve. I like that.
There's a funny bit where he starts to defend him and, getting the maid pregnant.
Yeah.
He's like, give the guy a break. He's been shooting, swishes for 40 years. A maid, he can handle a maid. That's not a big deal. It was like, it's a funny
I
bit.
forgot about that.
It's
I
funny.
forgot
Yeah,
about the whole
that
maid
was about his
situation.
only bad mark on him, I
You
think.
know.
Well,
But that's it.
we're lucky to have with us tonight in the Zoom room, Mr. Zoom himself. I actually,
Zoomaloo.
I zoomed with him last night. He's very cordial, and
The
he
king of Zoom.
he doesn't do even an introduction like I like to do, but very zoomy in general.
Do you know
And,
Zoom is the name of a villain on The Flash?
Is that right?
This has been said about this man quite a bit. He's kind of like an abstinence counselor. He's learned how to fill all the holes. Please welcome our dear friend, Alan Peisner.
Oh God. Alan, you're muted.
Oh my God, he's oh my God.
Oh.
Zoom faux pas. Zoom faux pas.
That's-
Oh, it's not him. It's not him. It's not him. It's not him. He's saying.
Not him.
Oh,
Oh, it's not him.
It's not him.
He's looking for defense.
Justin.
Justin. Oh my gosh.
Oh, come on.
Now he's gone.
He's gonna get
Oh, there he
pissed. Oh boy.
Well, we'll come back to
We're
that.
not gonna hear
Come
the
back.
last of this.
No. Oh my. He's going to demand to have control over the Zoom.
Look at him.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
I
Are
mean,
we going to fix this or should we?
yeah, we should.
I think we should wait. Alan's too important to just pass over like.
Probably address it.
I can't hear Jamie.
Yeah, fuck off, everybody.
hit
Just-
Fuck off.
Doesn't leave? Is he not at his
Hey.
post?
Everybody can fuck off.
It's okay.
Well,
Right?
you guys.
Oh, Vajimir. Okay.
Yeah, the whole. Michael, fuck off.
What? Are you
Everybody
hearing
can
him?
fuck off.
It's okay.
What is?
All right.
I can't
Keep going.
hear you,
Jesus.
We're
Alan.
losing it. We're losing the viewership.
We're going to
Come on.
whoever's microphone's
Okay.
working.
All
Jamie
right,
Lo.
I guess we're
Oh, no, wait, Jeff Frazier. I'm sorry, Jeff Frazier in red. He's kind of. Is it Jeff Frazier? It could be.
No, I think it's all of Zoom we've lost.
What do you mean?
I gotta get the link.
Someone
No,
said.
I'm not
No sound on
Oh,
Zoom.
God. Jeff?
here.
No.
I can hear you, Jeff.
I can't.
You can hear him?
No.
I can't hear anybody.
Oh, you Vajimir.
Well, good. Let me
We're
talk
having,
about my
we're
hero.
having a few. Can
I can hear Amanda.
Test.
Well,
testing?
Jeff.
yeah,
All right, you know what? We're gonna zip to a break real quick,
Yeah,
Break it
okay.
up.
and we're
Alright.
gonna fix our technical difficulties, and then we're
You
gonna
can't
come
start the
back.
show without our.
And finish our introductions.
Nah, I know, but
because we have
It's only a short break, Tommy. Short break, very short. You're listening to
I
Planet Green.
object.
over and out.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are watching Planet Green Trees, the original and #1 podcast in Michigan for all things cannabis and legal news.
Hey folks, this is Amanda Joslin with the Amanda Report, sponsored by Komorn Law, aired on Planet Green Trees TV. We're here in East Tawas, and man is it beautiful weather, but a little windy, and we're about to do a review on the Botanical Company.
and we're at the Botanical Company in East Tawas. Tell us a little bit about your location here.
So we are in Northeast Michigan in the beautiful town of East Tawas. We opened in October of 2019 with our medical license, and then February of 2020 we got our recreational license. We have been warmly welcomed by this community, so we're so excited to be here, and obviously you can always find us on Weed Maps and Leafly with any location information.
Very nice, okay. All right, so let's hear about some of the products that you carry here at the Botanical Company.
Definitely flowers is a fan favorite here, so we want to make sure that our flower selection is very strong. And then obviously we're always listening to our guests and making sure that any new products coming online, we're getting them in as soon as possible and they're available for sure.
Tell me about another thing that may make Botanical Company a little unique.
I would say it's our aggressive loyalty program. Tawas is a fantastic tourist town through the summer months, but we know once those tourists leave, we have to make sure that we're doing right by our local demographic. So we wanted to make sure that our loyalty program was aggressive for them, so they were coming back and spending their hard-earned bucks and getting the best bang for their buck.
Very nice. Okay, so tell us about how somebody would get started here. I understand you have both adult use and medical use. So what would somebody that's looking to sign up, what would they need to have?
On the medical side, you just need your valid MMJ card and a valid driver's license or state ID. And then on the recreational side, you just need a valid ID. And then really we want to make it very friendly and make it a place where either if you're new to the cannabis lifestyle or very well versed to know exactly what you want, you just want to make sure it's a friendly atmosphere to come on in and spend as much time with our budtenders as you'd like to.
So other locations, what can we expect from the Botanical Company, Danielle?
We're so excited. We have our vertically integrated facility being built as we speak in Lansing. Such a strong cannabis culture there. That will be our cultivation, processing, and provisioning. That really is our flagship location.
Very exciting.
So November 1st, we hope to have provisioning open there. So we're just over the moon about that.
Yeah.
But it really hurts to see the
up in the wonderful
damaging
town of
that building,
Kalkaska,
breaking 200-year-old
such a great cannabis
They go through a
vine
door
town.
that
We
shouldn't
love
have
it.
been open.
We're going to be opening provisioning and then also
Well, they really
social
needed
use
somebody on the
which is
inside
just-
come around from the
we're
other
so
side.
excited to be able to come and get your products. They're right next
But they
door to
didn't
each
find
other. You
people.
can come and shop and go next door and just check out some music
They didn't
or
even
hang
know we
out.
were going
And
once
we're
they
over the moon about it.
I can't wait.
Good thing
Yeah,
I
us
wasn't
too,
down
us
there.
Yeah,
I know
so
my way
I
around.
guess we'll have to be
Yeah.
making another trip
Help
up
them, I
north
could've-
to take a look at not only the provisioning center, but also the lounge. And I understand there's going to be some awesome Kalkaska Kush.
Oh,
going on.
Kalkushka. For
Kalkushka!
our friends at Real Leaf Solutions.
Very nice,
And
very
it
nice.
is something that you can currently find at Tawas store, and we will be obviously providing that
Michael?
at all of our locations, and it is
Can you hear us?
phenomenal. Try it if you can find some.
So keep your eyes open, folks, and we'll be reporting more
No, Michael.
with their
I'm not
Lansing
hearing
location and their Kalkaska
Michael
location.
got no sound for me. Nothing.
This is Amanda with the Amanda Report, sponsored by Komorn Law and aired on Planet Green Trees. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you
I
next
can tell
time.
you're the world's best guitar player. You're the world's best guitar player, Michael. That's what American says.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal.
Mike, if
On
you can hear
December
me,
20th,
hold up your right
2018, the
hand.
President
You can
signed
hear
the
me, but I
Farm
can't hear
Bill,
you.
also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law.
Jamie, he can hear
The
us,
signing
he
of the
can't
act
hear
was
them.
great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act Hemp is now defined as the plant Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting into farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry. So come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
Or the people in the bunker to Well, we didn't think you could hear us.
Komorn Law. Michael Komorn is one of the top attorneys in Michigan that has experience and dedication in criminal defense law. Komorn Law can take your case from arrest all the way from trial, appeals, and even to the Supreme Court. The team at Komorn Law has the compassion and the experience you can look to for help in your time of need. Komorn Law has over 25 years experience in criminal defense. We have accomplished numerous legislative changes through community involvement and lobbying. Our award-winning law firm has a reputation like no other for keeping overreaching government accountable and in check. We have built Komorn Law for people who need lawyers to stand up to the system, fight back and win. Once we become your lawyer, you become a part of our family. Don't settle for less. Just ask our clients.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Komorn
5,
Law,
6,
the best
7,
damn
8.
criminal defense lawyer, period.
We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. And thing sucks.
Here's Michael Komorn with more Planet Green Tree.
Yeah.
All right, we're back. Apparently, we had some technical difficulties.
That's
didn't
not
stop us
true.
from celebrating this wonderful Wednesday night that we're all
Sometimes.
gathering here together.
It's a fib.
If you didn't know, this is Planet Green Trees, and it's episode 400 and what do you say?
98.
98. It's called "Is It the Beginning or Is It the End?"
Correct.
Got some topics we're going to talk about. The local guests here, local talent has been introduced. We're moving over to the Zoom room. Alan Peisner is here. We're happy that he's here. He's a Zoomer himself. We're not going through that. Alan, what's your story? Say hello and tell us who your hero is.
Great sweatshirt.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
represent.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be aboard the Planet Green Tree spaceship, and my hero is John Sinclair,
Oh.
bringing marijuana to the forefront. The late 1960s, early 1970s, going to jail for 10 years for 2 joints, and really bringing the idea of marijuana into popular and frequent conversation, and something that, instead of being that, a dirty, dark secret, something that everybody should talk about. So he gets it, And also because without him, we'd have no hash bash.
Which is it. That's
And you know
very
what?
true.
I mean, coming out or being a force in it back then when it was really taboo, that's something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
He's kind of iconic too because he's, it's all in his integrity. Like I think
Right.
there's a lot of ways he could have
Integrity. Right.
sold his.
That's right.
Yep, I always
Commercialize
enjoy,
it, yeah.
sitting and talking with John. I always do, and I think I'm the only cop or ex-cop that he'll do that with. I'm pretty sure.
You know what? You're the only ex-cop I would actually sit next to and have convo with.
Steve, you're one
Cop
of the few that
or
Adam Brooke will
ex-cop.
do that with. He's said that pretty clearly before.
Yeah, he has. Adam has
So
said that.
there's just something about Esteban,
It has to do with his connection to the Perry Bullard.
Yeah, I think John
He's-
liked that.
He's,
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
What
good people.
everyone's trying to say, I think, is that they now believe they have enough dirt on Steve that if he really was still undercover,
Oh, he'd be
that's
fucked.
right. That's right.
They probably do.
if there was still a question.
There's a line.
Listen, we're blessed to have my dear friend Jeff Frazier, all the way from Austin, Texas, in a flowing red dragon heat
Red
lamp.
Yeah.
You see those in
Like
dragon enclosures, sometimes in
It's not hot
saunas.
enough in
Like an
Texas. He needs
incubator.
a heat
No,
lamp
it
on
was
him.
it was cold there. It was like 62.
60. Yeah,
62
something.
this
He's
past
got to
week.
have a heat lamp on him.
And if it's not a hammock, a guitar, and iguanas, you can't be sure it's Jeff Frazier.
And
But
his
listen,
co-pilot, Jeanette.
It is so cool to be here. We need hammocks. There's no doubt but that. But my hero is Michael Komorn. There's no hiding it. Never been a question. You take the cases that Michael Komorn has taken and won and set precedent. And what we need to be doing today is celebrating.
That's very kind,
That's
Jeff.
true.
Yeah.
It's very true. Nobody fights him like you, Michael.
That is true.
Not too many, anyhow. I mean, you're a rarity. You're a gem.
Jeff Frazier caused a lot of that, by the way.
He's always stirring up
very
trouble.
responsible for all that
problem.
shit that we're talking about. You got to blame him just as much. Just kidding.
Always stirring up trouble.
Always.
Trying
it's
to
good.
get us
It's
to
good
do
though.
stuff.
It's good though.
Yeah.
Because it's like if we didn't have the hours locked in, spent talking about some of these crazy things, it wouldn't make sense when they continuously happen. Like we wouldn't have reference points and timelines of,
Fucked up shit.
yeah. Like, how are they doing this and they just did that with Max Lorenz a couple years ago? How could that still, did nobody...
Like, this doesn't
somebody
make
keeping
any
score?
damn sense.
Yeah, but...
None of it does.
So, Jeff, what is the word from... Jeff had a very successful outcome in a case.
Yes.
Jeff, I was with Komorn Law. Jeff was leading the charge out there. It involved a case in California, and it involved a canine officer. And there's a story to be told there. Jeff, why don't you explain a little more of the outcome and why it's so significant, and also
Huge.
how Michigan needs to evolve there real quickly if you can.
Well, yes, and the shorter we keep this, the better. Because here's what happened: guy got pulled over for weaving between lanes. The cops smelled marijuana. Gave him a test as to whether he was inebriated. He passed. Wrote him a warning for the ticket, but then ran the drug dog, who also alerted on marijuana. And were alerted, and so the guy searched the car and found a couple $100,000 worth of cash, one edible, all completely legal. And so, I mean, this is not a particularly sophisticated legal argument. You got to understand, but what we argued is that the smell of marijuana, the smell of the cannabis plant, is no longer probable cause to search a car or a home or anything else. And we won. And it is now the law that the smell of marijuana in California is not probable cause to search a car, run a drug dog, break your house down. And it's a simple thing. It should be much more simple than it is. And I know that we've been fighting it together for the last 4 or 5 years, or 10. And but that was a result, practical result of a case. Of course, they went after the forfeiture. But we managed to get, based on all of the work we've done in the last 5 years. So
I got
the smell of marijuana, the smell of cannabis is no longer a probable cause to search, see, arrest.
And I got just quick to add, when Jeff called, they were looking for a canine expert. And so I was on my search. I called a couple of the guys I knew who weren't able to help out, but I did ask them the question. Can the canine sniff and tell the difference between hemp or marijuana, considering hemp probably always has at least a little bit of THC in it? And their answer is no. The canine cannot tell the difference. And some progressive movement in Michigan policing, as the one guy I talked to, who's still an active canine officer, said in their training group, they have put all the marijuana sniffing dogs out of service.
That's exactly what should happen.
Retired them, and they're moving on to other things, working on tracking and probably smelling other narcotics out, and maybe explosive. Well, bomb dogs are specialty. They don't mix with the others, but that was good news. I mean, that shows some progress in our own area. That at least I know of one canine training group where that's their philosophy. Pull the marijuana dogs off the road, retire them, and start with new dogs that are not trained to marijuana.
As long as they're not sending them to the pound or something.
No, the handler will keep them as a pet.
Oh.
They take them home, keep them as a pet, and they may even get another canine. They'll have two, but the one's now home with the family and is retired, and that's what they always do when they retire them.
Part of the story is about the compassion of dogs and not making sure that they're, euthanized if they should lose their job. Part of the story is also that the dog canine is not science in the classic sense of science. That's part of the thing. I'm not knocking the value that they may have for other things, tracking, body identification, bomb thug, but this whole thing with the car and the ability to truly in a scientific manner, without any subjectivity, get them to hit. Now listen, there are people that swear up and down and may, put it all on the dogs, and I'm not knocking.
But the problem with it,
go ahead,
is the way that in one of the shift trainings that the canine did with us one time. I remember him describing how the dog smells. So like when we smell, like if somebody's cooking an apple pie, we smell an apple pie as humans. The dog smells the cinnamon, the apple, what's in the crust, the grease that's used to make it, and they can pick it all apart. So
how do you know this? How do you know this, Steve? What dog said that?
That's what the canine trainer.
I understand this. This is part of this. The
it's a lot of it's anecdotal, but they can do some amazing shit. They
can. They might be able to. They might be able to.
Might be nothing. They're used in law enforcement now for enforcement of crimes against children.
Okay.
Because what ends up happening, apparently, I learned this from someone else in one of the law enforcement agencies here in Michigan, is these predators will hide electronic media in cubbies and walls so that they don't get caught. And they have dogs now that can detect the electronic media, and they find it in the walls and they tear it out.
Oh, shit.
I mean, it's crazy. And then you see some of these dogs that can detect things like cancer. I mean, absolutely amazing. So I don't think that it's reasonable to think that they cannot accurately detect drugs in a vehicle. I absolutely think they can. I think the problem is when the handler leads the dog to do a false alert. And I think that's where the problem is.
Because it could be, say the handler arrested somebody with marijuana, and it was a small amount, and after he got it, he put it in his pocket and then continued his search. Now he's got that smell of marijuana on him all night. So next car, he gets called to a traffic stop, they have him search the car. So he walks the dog up to the car and, gives him the cue to search for marijuana. The dog could be smelling that marijuana in his pocket now. I mean, because based on what I was saying earlier with the dog's ability to smell, it's going to pick up on, it could be picking up somebody smoking a mile away, and you're searching that car and the dog sits to indicate that there's marijuana.
But I think that's why
it's marijuana.
But that's
where
why
the
it's
problem
so
lies.
important that the dogs should be retired.
Yeah.
The ones that detect marijuana. And right now in Michigan, the large percentage of them are not being retired, which means people are still having
Well,
their
there's
vehicles
still,
searched.
on the flip side of progress, there's still an old school philosophy that, and I heard this from the same canine handler I got all this information from, and one of the guys who used to be a canine for the city of Wayne, and him and a lot of the others it's still a drug. It's a Schedule I drug, dangerous drug, and it's bad, and we are still going to go for it. So there's still those cops out there too.
Here, let me say this.
Yeah.
You've heard, here's the jury instruction for Michigan tracking dog evidence. You have heard testimony about the use of tracking dog. You must consider tracking dog evidence with great care and remember that it has little value as proof. Even if you decide that it is reliable, you must not convict the defendant based only on tracking dog evidence. There must be other evidence that the defendant is guilty. I'm just saying, because and again,
But it doesn't need to be definitive. It just needs to be enough to get them over the goal line for probable cause. That is.
Well, what are we talking? Are we talking about the potential value that they have, or how that potential value has been conflated into a sea of Fourth Amendment?
That's the problem.
Okay.
That's the problem. But
And-
the problem isn't the dog. That's my point. The dog can do amazing things, and this is one of them.
Listen, it's fair to say this. I feel like this has become totally insensitive. It's like all other professions. You have someone that's in charge of taking care of business as a professional, their standards, they try to remove their, subjectivity to the outcome to a certain degree. They're trained in some kind of school of whatever. But all of the professions have different ways of imposing their subjectivity into what should be an objective evaluation. So it's like anything else. But, you got some good dog trainers that are really into it. Some use it as a tool to get into a car. They know that, pull the dog's chain at a certain moment. Oh, the dog, what are the penalties if the dog's wrong? None.
Nothing.
What does it hurt them to say, well, I want to get in the car, smell marijuana, call for the dog. How are you not getting in that car? You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, it's like half the time
how often
you've
does
already
the dog
smelled the marijuana, so why do you need the dog?
Okay, there you go. And yeah, exactly. Like what judge is throwing out cases because you were wrong about smelling marijuana? How are you going to prove it?
Like what you were saying, Michael, sometimes the dogs, based on their personalities, they'll if they want to go outside, or if they know they're going to get a treat, for instance, if they go outside, then sometimes they'll just want a treat. So they're going to go, ask to go outside. So meaning like if you're relating that to these dogs and what you're saying, Esteban, is what if that dog sits down just because he just wants to go home? He's just done. He just wants to be done with his shift.
They're going to call it he indicated on the car.
Here's something else. And for example, we have a case in St. Clair County where they use a dog all the time and wherever. And the dog hit, but it turns out that the driver had a dog in the vehicle.
Oh boy!
So how do you reconcile that? Like another dog is going to be barking because there's a way, that's an issue. That's an X factor. The dog could be in heat. You think you're going to be able to control a male dog?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know sometimes instincts take over. And,
they are animals.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Anyways, I didn't mean to go back. I mean, Jeff.
It's a good discussion.
Jeff stood there. Jeff, I felt like I was defending. I fought for you there because I know that part of that you didn't want to go at it with Steve, which is fine. I did the dirty work, but like the part of the case was that dogs are not. What was it? There's lack of
They have like
we got an expert. We got an expert in the field from California who is testifies, and he may have jumped ship from the community of dog canine handlers, and he's not telling some of the secrets. Jeff, enlighten us a little bit what you learned.
Well, the drug dogs are not reliable. They're not trained with double blind. They're not trained with scientific certainty, and they don't pass the Daubert standard for admissible testimony. I mean, the dogs are, God bless us all, everyone. Let's adopt one, but they are not reliable testimony, and the alerting of a dog, and is not probable cause to believe that there's a crime that has been committed or evidence of a crime that could be found.
It should not be. It is everywhere else in the world. It may not be now in California. There's been some, right, where else does it not hold true? It certainly holds true in federal court. Feds have not stopped utilizing them. California may be the one place because of the legalization of marijuana. But the reality is, as we know, there is now legal THC and illegal THC, technically, all over the rest of the place, right? It doesn't have a specific...
Delta 8? Delta not...
I'm saying a
THC
cannabis plant with 0.3% of THC that the dog may smell the cannabis plant cannot delineate that that is legal THC, and the 29, level, 29% THC in the cannabis plant is likewise a similar smell, but there's a legal distinction within that, what is it? What do they call them? Yeah, the nose is the whatever.
Orifice?
Yeah, but so that's an important point right now, and that concept there goes even further into the problems that we've all known about that all testing labs have regards to trying to prove impairment of any kind. But Jeff, tell me what else. So there was a whole rundown. What was that case? Is it in Oregon or is it in Utah or something where the federal judge, or anyways, federal state judge just did a whole like a Dauber hearing and made some conclusions about the canine dogs. But it's not everywhere. It was just for that jurisdiction. But explain the holding of the impact of the canine issue in this case.
Well, there's two things that are happening here. One is that there's no scientific reliability around the alert of a dog or a human handler, for that matter, to the smell of marijuana. The Fourth Amendment requires that you can only search if you have a reasonable basis to believe that a crime has been committed or evidence of crime will be found. And our argument has been for years now, particularly in Michigan, that the smell of marijuana is not probable cause to detain and to search and to seize and to take people's assets. And it's only logical. But what we have now is good jurisprudence, the People versus Johnson case in California, but also in Washington, Kentucky, and some other places. The genie is out of the bottle. The smell of the cannabis plant alone is not enough to support probable cause. Dogs are not trained to detect the difference between 0.3% THC, and for that matter, THC is odorless. So, this is more ammo that we have, and it's only logical. If marijuana is not necessarily illegal, or even more powerfully, if it's just simply not illegal, then the smell of it or the mere presence of it is not probable cause to search a car or a home, what have you.
Now, the disclaimer out there, people should know that Jeff Frazier from Texas had to go to a jurisdiction, the farthest west coast of the United States, the second farthest west coast. And in order to get that ruling, Michigan law is, all signs would point to a similar kind of outcome. I don't know that we can say with any certainty of jurisprudence that reflects that similarly. Alan, can you speak to that? Do you agree or disagree with that?
Yes, actually, Michigan law has been wishy-washy on smell being probable cause. We had Kazmierczak in 1997. Before then, the Supreme Court precedent was that the smell alone was not probable cause. I think the case was Taylor, but the justification in that case, right before Kazmierczak, was that marijuana smell lingers, and that just because you're smelling it doesn't mean that the marijuana itself is present. In other words, you could have somebody who walks into a room with people smoking marijuana, then he gets in, and he just went there maybe to counsel them against smoking marijuana, or maybe just to drop something off. But he's in the room, he picks up the smell, then he gets in his car and starts driving. And if he's pulled over for a traffic stop, the police are going to think that he has marijuana because he smells like it, because he was in a room with it. So for that reason, the Michigan Supreme Court held that the smell alone was not probable cause, just because of the lingering effect of it.
Which
so
one? What case? Kazmierczak?
No, it was right before Kazmierczak. I believe it's Taylor.
Taylor's a case that involved a liquor prohibitionist. That's the case that
I'd have to look. I've got
I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you the story.
Yeah.
It was a building, and a prohibition was like, I think there's alcohol in here. I smell alcohol, and smell alone got him into the building. He said he didn't need a warrant, and that was the law. Smell alone is not probable cause. You got to get a warrant because of the Fourth Amendment. Then they came with the exception that the mobility of a vehicle changed the dynamics.
Creates an extra
probable cause. You still got to get a search warrant for a house, but you don't need a search warrant to search a car if you have the smell of marijuana. And that's where we stand right now. And that case has been conflated to smells enough to get in a car as the bottom line ruling.
Still is today. They're still
Still is today. Although we were close on a couple cases, and there's that, what is it? Anyways.
Some more coming up, too.
Yeah. All right, so listen, I don't want to, is Jamie Lowe still here? I feel bad if Jamie bailed. Did he bail?
Excuse me, Michael. The case that I'm referring to is People versus Taylor. It's a 1997 case. It's 454 Mich 580 is the case where it's held that the odor of marijuana alone is not sufficient probable cause to search a motor vehicle.
Right, and this case overrules it. Kazmierczak overrules it. And if you read Kazmierczak, they say, how did we get to that? What is the Taylor case in 99 or 98? Well, they
97.
go back. They go back to find the case that started it, which was the finding of the prohibition of alcohol. They kind of they have a name for like a probation officer. Go get Kazmierczak and see what the. All right, you're not doing.
I just did.
All right,
I pulled it.
Where's Jamie Lowe? Did he leave?
Yeah, and I've got to go too.
Why?
I've got to zoom in.
Who's on the other Zoom, Alan?
You got another Zoom going,
yeah,
Alan? Oh, it's Wednesday. It's not the normal Thursday, so you're forgiven,
Wednesday.
Alan.
Who do you expect
I'll be
to
back after.
Alan, will you ask the question that I see if information you got, which is, I'll send you the question. Will you see if anyone knows the answer to it? I'll text it to you.
Sure.
See, tell
Sure.
that. All right.
See you in a bit, Alan.
All right.
See ya.
We're going to Jamie Lowe. Let's get Jamie back. Where's he? Get him back.
We're going to find him, but we're going to go to a
text
break real
All right,
quick.
fine.
Going to a break.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org.
Dr. Bud Green here. Welcome to our
Bill Schuette led the charge against medical marijuana, and even after the will of the voters was decided and the support was enormous, he still continued to fight against the will of the voters, keeping patients from the medicine that they need. So I think it's important that we all speak up on what we think about this initiative. But when the voters have their say, their will must stand.
Hi, my name is Jim Powers with Michigan Parents for Compassion. You are watching Planet Green Trees. Planet Green Trees is the #1 podcast for marijuana and marijuana-related discussion in the state of Michigan. We've been at it for over a decade. There's no greater place to get your news, and there's no greater host in that we have attorney Michael Komorn, who you should absolutely call and contact for all of your legal needs. Planet Green Trees is the #1 marijuana show in the state of Michigan. Tune in to Planet Green Trees every Thursday at 8 p.m.
Here's Michael Komorn with more Planet Green Trees.
Or back, do we lose Jeff Frazier now? What happened? Yeah, we lost Alan. He's bailed on us. We didn't trade Jeff for Jamie, did we? That time? Anyways, we're very, very happy, and we're delayed in getting to him. We're glad he's here to join us tonight. The one and only Jamie Lowell, who is responsible for everything. Please welcome Jamie Lowell.
Jamie. Got to hang with Jamie today.
Jamie, a lot going on, and I know we got past some of that Fourth Amendment stuff. We can get into some of these topics here. But first, tell us what's been going on with you. Give us your thoughts on
anything.
The cabbage. I want to hear about the cabbage a little bit. That your competing radio show that you
sure
have guests and you
well,
spend time.
On the cabbage last time around, we talked a lot about the coalition that's been being formed of many groups to help out with the commutation of sentences and clemency and getting people out of prison for cannabis-related activity.
So, for those that aren't aware, there's a couple. I mean, there's a lot of different groups forming for different reasons. What are you speaking of in particular?
Well, this is like the, as far as nationally goes, Last Prisoner Project. In state, the Cannabis Caucus, the Democratic Party, Redemption Foundation.
Yeah. What else?
There were some prosecutors from Eli Savitt, and it might be Ellie.
What about actually? What about it? Some prosecutors that are what?
Well, they were involved in discussion with us. There's some National Defense Lawyer Association that helps individual states out in this regard. It was formed to get more prisoners besides Michael Thompson, celebrating that, but viewing it as hopefully the tip of the iceberg. And a lot of good people came together to engage in that conversation. Rep. Robbie was on that.
Who?
Representative Robbie.
Yeah.
So there's lawmakers and prosecutors and a lot of activist groups
That's
and
fine.
national organizations and stuff like that.
All right. So this is really. I don't want to. If I can summarize, I asked what groups. There's a lot that are forming, and all those people that are mentioned. We've got Michael Thompson out of prison. We should celebrate that. But there's a lot of more work to be done, right? I mean, we don't.
Well, that was the point. To keep it going.
Okay. All right. Good. I thought you're. Are they? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Keep going.
Okay. No, Michigan ASA just recently, new chapter reformed in Michigan with Brandy Zink kind of heading it up as probably the most experienced and long-term person associated with ASA. Even before it was ASA in Ohio, she was working with a lot of the same people. And she's a good spokesperson for that particular patient-focused kind of perspective on things.
Sure. Can I ask you something? I know, unrelated, I would normally not do this like on the air, but and we talked about some organizations earlier today, trying to get consent on a couple supportive.
I did ask around about that, and I think everything is good.
All right. Well, we're working on an ASAP self-imposed timeline, just so we can get
good.
to. Okay.
We are on board.
If anybody needs further explanation for their own conscience, or understand what they're signing up for, I can explain that a little bit more. All right. But I thought one of the groups, and you may have to help explain this to me. I know that there's this. Any of the groups that you're referring to, are they committees that are making reports and are recommending action to the government, where the government's relying on them? Are any of the groups that you're referring to in that regard?
No, that's a separate discussion, but we did talk about that a little bit also, and it is one of the topics for tonight, so we can talk about that a little bit.
Let's talk about it right now, when you're ready, but I want to have that be the next topic.
Well, I don't mind getting ready, because that's enough, for right now. I'm looking forward to our next week's show. Just to throw out there, though, I'll have John Sinclair mentioned as a hero tonight, and Tiffany Coleman, who I've mentioned before, who is involved in the science side of things, who's done a lot of work in cannabis the last few years, but has like a pharmaceutical background before that, and research and stuff. And she's really interesting to listen to, very knowledgeable, and had a great response last time we had her on. And she was aware of John in Colorado through music more. The fact that he was a poet, and she knew that John Lennon wrote a song and stuff like that, but she didn't realize we were talking about the same John Sinclair until recently. So it's going to be kind of cool to have them on the same show.
Excellent. And of course, I noticed if I was to measure your, the radio waves, or like the vibrations that come out of your mouth over the last couple of years, much more pronounced lately with the realization of this. Not that you haven't spoken about it, but for some reason it's been a point of more hostility than normal coming from you, of the failure of the leadership of our government to take the necessary steps and unschedule cannabis.
Yeah. So you were mentioned as a hero tonight, too. And to piggyback on that, I mean, this is one of the things you've been proactive on, and you've brought to light for a lot of people. And it's amazing how many people don't get it. And when they do hear about it, it's so illogical. They can't understand why it persists.
Right.
And yes, it's just so frustrating to know how incredibly irrational it is, and then to have it concurrently as a Schedule 2, just compounds the complete senselessness of how it's being handled.
And I mentioned that because one, I do see, you've been much more outspoken about it, and saying it sometimes, is to say to maybe offend others that are, for some reason defending it, and but at some point in time, it's either they're going to do what they said they're going to do, or they're not going to do what they said they did. But I brought it up really because you mentioned John Sinclair, and he's the key plaintiff, and it's interesting because the lawsuit presupposes all the damage done to him and potential future for him and everybody else that's in the state of Michigan, whatever role they may play. Citizen Joe to nurse to veteran who has federal health care, to pharmacists, to doctors, to patients, to mothers with kids, all of this, circling around the remaining social justice issues that were manufactured through the prohibition of marijuana. And as Jamie is expressing in the simplest terms, but to break it down, it's just so irrational. That's a legal basis to change fundamentally something that exists in the law. There's more than enough. But one of the ways the courts will punt on not having to decide if they don't want to, maybe too political, too highly charged, is to say there's standing issue. There's no one immediately in harm. But if they want to take the case, and they will, and if they want to not take the case, they'll claim standing, because you don't need to have, if it's irrational, that's enough. Right. If it raises that level.
So now, if you take away like somebody trying to be political in terms of being in the courts or punting, so to speak, on a technicality or whatever, I mean, theoretically, from a legal perspective, the cannabis is on the list, it's connected to the criminal code, that's the presiding law at the time. And then these newer laws come into play and they contradict that older law. And just given that consideration, the newer laws ought to win out over the older laws. And if, for example, cannabis is not supposed to have any medical efficacy, but the state of Michigan more recently determined that it does have medical efficacy, and those who have certain conditions can use it, then the only resolve is removing it from that, because then that's the only way to solve the contradiction.
Right, because it can't be both. It can't be both.
Like, ideally, shouldn't a judge look at it like that? I mean, and then there's more stuff that have come on later, the MMFLA, the MRTMA, the way the state has, encouraged activity in different ways in order to keep the pipeline going during the emergency implementation of the commercial stuff. I mean, there's a lot more now on top of what's already, started off with the MMA.
It's quite remarkable, Jimmy, because you would think that those kind of things, just as a matter of law, would have occurred. You thought that there would have been some kind of recognition in the law that when the law...
New law comes in, there's contradiction. As a matter of course, it gets ironed out so that there's no people damaged now, outside of the intents of the new law.
Of course. And what I'm saying is we can look back in the history of the timeline of how we got here. You had Schedule 1 per the Public Health Code prohibiting all of marijuana. Then the MMA, which says it can be used medically, and the state adopts it. It is no longer Schedule 1, can't be Schedule 1. Didn't change then. This is 2009, right? Then 2016, they pass a regulatory law that sells it, taxes it, right? Pays, people have to get licenses. And then they recreationally, same thing. It's so the point I'm trying to make is that expecting, I don't know, I mean, it doesn't, it's really, I think it goes back to the significant power and effect that the greatest propaganda campaign that's ever existed effectuated many, many people. And those in the hierarchy of power, courts, legislatures, they're not digging into it to ask questions. They're not inquisitive. They've accepted. They're born in, they're born, take a seat. This is how we think about it. They're going to do it. They're no one saying like, very few. You think about the times and places where you see people speaking out rationally against it if they were not blacklisted, in some way, or lost their credibility.
The AG's response on that to this too, to our suit, was pretty pathetic as well. And
they argued, when the law is not on your side, argue the facts. When the facts are on your side, argue the law. They argued neither. They argued like standing. They argued like.
And the court went with it. That's what's sad.
Anyway, so Jay, that's what we were talking about, and
so some of the original interpretations. I mean, this is just for clarity, of your legal perspective, that deemed the MMMA to be just exclusionary to the existing law could be argued were erroneous interpretations, because, as we're saying, it should have bumped it from the criminal code on its face because it totally contradicted it.
Jim, you're asking
Then it wouldn't have been an exclusion then. It would have just been bumped, and then you'd have to figure out how best to fill in those, whatever was deemed necessary by the lawmakers. Similar to what happened in the Sinclair case in the 70s. I mean, the law was stripped. The lawmakers had to come back in and figure out how to fill in whatever they felt necessary.
And that's what should have happened. You can't say you don't like the law, don't break it, change it, and then you do, and then those in charge of interpreting it give it second-class law status. It is not a question of whether or not the MMA has language when in conflict which law wins. It has it very specifically, and the same can be said about the recreational law, which without question should resolve the issue. right? I mean, you have it's not even like you need the legislature to do something. By virtue of the passage of the recreation law and the, Michigan's regulate, tax like alcohol is to say it is like alcohol. It's not on a schedule. It's a spirit, beverage. Something to be regulated. It's not a medicine. It's not scheduled as a drug anymore. Like, that's what the voter initiative did. And if the legislature is going to do something, they adopted it. By virtue of its existence, it should undo the idea that it's Schedule 1. There's no debate here. What other legislative act would or should need to be done? The pharmacy board is going to have a meeting and say, they should say that, we're going to act consistent with the people's will. And anyone that's fighting this issue is just, obstinate, burying their head in the sand. And I'll say, why do we know this? Why do we know this? Because Eli Savitt, as we've proclaimed, said the Michigan Penal Code, the Public Health Code, that marijuana, screw that. That's not, don't bring that shit in here. Michigan voters legalized this, and this is how it is. If you don't believe me, which doesn't matter because that's the law, read the Schaefer report, watch Reefer Madness, and understand why the 1937 Tax Act was passed, and then you'll understand why prohibition was a lie and a losing proposition. And, there's a definition for what you call this insanity. It's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It's not going to happen. So, just to say, look, we're not going to be insane anymore, he gets a lot of credit for that. We're not going to do what it's been done. It doesn't fix anything. We're not doing that. He gets a lot of credit for that. No one else did that. He's not treating it like a Schedule 1. He's acknowledged the fact that the voter initiative meant something. All these people are voted by people. They will hold holy their, election process. They won. It's something. It's a big deal. You get people to vote for you. That means something. That in America. But don't minimize and second-class citizen the laws that are consistent with this principle or contrary to the way it sits. And Jamie, all of those laws, the MMA, and in particular the recreational MRTMA, say without question that, first of all, it says unequivocally that the intent of this law is to legalize marijuana, which is, as you said, the MMA was interpreted as an exclusion to, instead, select group of people fall within this category, not the entire state. The MMA didn't legalize marijuana; it created exemptions for small class of people. So the language goes, but MRTMA very clearly said this is intended to legalize marijuana. That's the beginning. The last two paragraphs are this statute is intended to read broadly for its intended purpose, and any law that conflicts with this, the recreational law wins. So it's I don't know what else you got to do. I don't know what you got to do.
Still got prosecutors charging it the other way. We've seen that in this office.
It is rather okay. So and here, okay, this kind of brings to the next point. Now, I read this article. Let's see what it says here. I don't know if I got the second page, but okay. Transition here, Jamie, and we were talking about this. There are some work groups that were designed and picked by the regulatory agency that on the issue of social equity. And this newspaper reporting here says the reports call for new marijuana taxes to help promote minority ownership. And there's a lot to unravel here. But let me try to let me read it a little bit here. An advisory group, so there was an advisory group that was selected by the MRA. People could apply, right, and they got selected, and they did some kind of application process. Jamie Law, am I right about this? Do you concur?
I do. I do. We want to point out some of the sensationalism here, though, at some point.
There's different things I want to get to, but just serve as my...
yes, I support all of this, and all of this really freaking people out and scaring people right now.
I'm not freaking anyone.
It's effective.
We're not freaking anyone out. I'm saying that I want to make sure I understand, because I in conjunction with this article, there's a Facebook group that is this organization, is this advisory group. There's an advisory group that has been selected. They're an organization. They're supported by the government, and the government is taking their advice and they're recommending new tax on marijuana sales to raise millions of dollars that would be used to improve diversity and help disadvantaged groups succeed in the industry. Okay, so data collected by the Michigan Marijuana Regulatory Agency in December show that only 3.8% of those with an ownership interest in licensed recreational marijuana businesses in Michigan are black, and only 1.5% are Hispanic or Latino, according to an agency report. The voter-approved Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act of 2018 directed the agency to create a plan to promote and encourage participation in marijuana industry by people from communities that have been disproportionately impacted by marijuana prohibition and enforcement to positively impact those communities. The agency's Racial Equity Advisory Work Group, which is what I'm speaking of, which was released its recommendations Tuesdays aimed at improving access to capital investment for black and brown businesses. Along with technical education, other forms of assistance, implementing some recommendations would require action by the legislature. Now, I had an immediate reaction to this because I think this, there's a lot to unpack here. I don't want to talk about the taxes yet. I don't want to talk about the recommendations yet, and I don't want to talk about the selection of the advisory group. What I want to talk about is that what I take out of this is it's sensational that it's pointing out the racial disparity of the marijuana industry and the problems maybe with the recreational law. There's something to be said there, right? That it's not working. There's the recreational law it's allowing only so many people into the industry. This is unfair. No one's disputing that, but it's being made by a government agency that's pointing this out, right? And it's being done under the auspices of the agency by the state running this thing and their selected individuals. Now, it should be clear, this is my rant, it should be clear that the recreational law was not a legislatively enacted law. The state never acted to create to legalize or decriminalize marijuana. They were forced to by the electorate, and they did so begrudgingly.
Yeah.
And they had an opportunity to, but they didn't.
Yep, they screwed the pooch.
And the idea of a social equity program was not a government idea. They could give two fucking shits.
Right.
Because they were happy to lock anyone up, and disproportionately black and brown people. And it needs to be said that in other communities, the poor white people, middle-class white people, likewise, it was whoever was with cannabis. It's not everywhere, but there has to be some people filling the jails where black people don't live, and that's taking place certainly in other parts of the state because the statistics show it. But in the grand scheme of things, of course, the disproportionality is that there's fewer black people and they get arrested more for marijuana than white people that use the same amount of marijuana. That's the inherent problem and the point for why it needed to be legislated and why there needed to be an acknowledgement of those communities most affected by it. If you look at the urban settings of where Michigan has these jurisdictions, it's there that you find these disproportionate and also most devastated communities. All right, with that being said, and that was not what I wanted to talk about, but what I want to talk about is how this article seems to give some cover that, like, the state's in position, they got a group going that's going to make some recommendations of how to get there, and somehow the agency is able to, report these statistics, and their self-appointed, selected individuals that have an interest in improving this can point to some other solution as to how to get there without really pointing the blame at where it needs to be, without pointing out that, the community, the voters wanted this kind of law to be passed and it didn't come. But this, I don't know, that was my first take on it. Before I even get into the underlying issues, do you see what I'm saying here, Jamie? Do you feel me on this? That it gives like you read this and you say, okay, it's unfair that only 1.5% are ownership for minority businesses, if that's what we're going to call them, and that's wrong. No one's saying, but we didn't need this organization to point that out. We knew that beforehand. the law that the state came up with, the MMFLA, was intended to preclude everyone that had marijuana conviction or had been abused by the war on drugs. I mean, that's the whole point of it, right? And I don't know. It just you know, this article is like kind of gets born, and you got the the group representing the disenfranchised aligned with the state, you know, making recommendations that, because they're working with the state, like the real thing should be, the state should be creating funds and giving out money that people could borrow for. They should create a bank for black-owned businesses. They should allow for, I don't know. There's other things that they could do. They could create an entire, what do they used call it? What kind of grows are not allowed? What do you call them? Like community grows? What is the thing called? Like a
cooperative.
Like a cooperative of services, right?
Collective.
Yeah, collective of you got business people, and you train the people that are coming. And by the way, the idea that you're going to do this by way of taxing is it's offensive in a way, because I think. I don't know. Listen, is any group going to rely on the government to help them with marijuana? They don't even know what they're doing.
How about we fix the root of the problem?
Understood, but the answer of these problems is not from government taxing. It's from private investment.
Of course.
And creating incentives and discounts and ways for people to get involved and participate. It doesn't have to be exclusive either. It should be inclusive, but with a goal in mind of empowering these communities. I don't know. Is that too much to ask for? Am I out of whack here, Jamie? About this issue?
That's not too much to ask for.
All right.
But some of those things, as reported, aren't necessarily concerns that are of immediacy. And it's been explained by a few people who were involved in that group a little bit more. We have Anquinette Q, who was involved, and she chimed in a little bit on the Safer Mish discussion, and a woman, Titania Grant, who I'm not sure if I've actually met before, but I'm aware of her. I've seen her on some of these broadcasts and things like that, some political stuff, and very aware and person involved in the whole thing too. And it's true the taxes were discussed, but they were of considered of least priority and not of the list given as recommendations to the state ultimately. So they're in this report because while the group met, these things were discussed. So the way that the media kind of drew it out and added it in was, technically correct, but it gave the illusion that those things might be, particularly with the wording of how the director is going to make sure this group is cemented and their ideas are really involved in the discussion for making these changes and that type of stuff. It was just a little misleading about that. And I fed into it right away too until I heard from the people involved. There's an actual report. It's been posted a couple places. I haven't totally gone through it, but that can be reviewed to get the real answer of what's going on.
No, I understand, but the talking points around it that it was okay. So my first point was, reading this seemed like it had some inflammatory language, but it was also giving cover to the agency and the state for its fucking terrible behavior that can never go. This does not give them a pass. You know what I mean?
No, that's true, because we would say, and I think we had the discussion, here a few weeks ago, or within the last year at least, that unless when we talked about Detroit for sure, unless the local ordinance goes out of its way to try to give some teeth and some conditions, to the concept of social equity, it's difficult for anything really meaningful to get done through what the state has done. They're just mandated to do something to help lean it in that direction. So what they've chosen to do is just based on, I suppose, with some evaluations and how they thought they could reach the most disadvantaged people the soonest. But in practice, unless the locals are really grabbing a hold of it, it doesn't really seem to have ever had much.
The reference of 1.5% of the business owners compared to the 10% of cities that have opted in, right? I mean, we're not talking about the grand population. I mean, it's even misleading because you have to, because if it's
that's under 100, right? And then how many have also wanted to include the micro businesses, which is some of the thing has been aimed some of this is mandatory. We're trying to make those types of things more attainable for people.
I will say
to improve conditions for that, to make those more competitive too.
I will say for those listening, and let this be clear that this is intended as a promotional effort on behalf of Komorn Law, but we have licensed the first 100-plant Class A grower in the pre-qualified in the city of Jackson, and also under the social equity program. Okay, now we're waiting on the building to get approved for the phase 2.
So happy for
but I don't know that there's. But Jackson happened to be a community that was allowing for the 4 small licenses, and it was really exciting. You know what I mean? I got to say, first, it was great being first in this capacity. Jamie, don't try to tell me someone else has one, but we know we're the first. And secondly, that it was social equity, and it had meaning, in that regard. And the
excitement in the client when he
the client was so happy. Yeah, just you know what I mean. It was like, I can't believe that this is going on. This is
great to listen.
But but I'm saying like he happened to walk, stumble upon the right price building, not overinflated, buying a land contract. He had to have some money, but it wasn't like. But those opportunities could exist across the state if you want to change the statistic. Who are they yelling at here? Who is this meant to? Who's reading this and feeling, oh, we got to fix that? This is to every single city council that has been anti-marijuana, knowing that it's a racist law, illogical, locking people up disproportionately. They should know that, number one. And when he started, they said, you know what, this is unfair. You're right, we should have more businesses here. We should create some opportunity. Let's get some, that's what this should do. It shouldn't be a fight. And only if that happens, like, okay, here's a good question, right? Only if that happens can we really embrace the concept of affecting social equity. Now, of the cities and townships across the counties, there's a county selection that have been selected as those effectuated by it. They have populations of a certain percentage that have been effectuated, whatever those statistics are. Not all of them have opted in. So you got the state law that identifies them. The reports say these groups, these jurisdictions should get social equity. You know what the cities are doing? Nah, not opting in. Why would we let that happen? Why would we fix the problem and try to repair the damage? Let's not do it. There's not enough.
Some of the cities aren't opting in because it's still Schedule 1 illegal federally. I mean, we've heard that from. I know one township we went out and spoke to a couple of years ago. That was, he's like, it's all well and great, and I'm not really against it, but it's still illegal federally, and we don't know. We're not really caring to tread those waters.
They're just wusses.
But that's always going to be because we're the best we're going to get is a state law change at this point. But I know what you're saying. If it was, I think it would make a difference if it was changed.
What does it matter to them? I mean, really. It's not like they're.
Do you think the federal government's going to come down on
them? On them? Yeah. Show me a
On
case that's got a city council.
I mean, whatever.
Like not give them funds or grants or those types of things. It's, they're not going to. They're afraid they're not going to get certain federal funding. I think is the bottom line.
There was a time when letters were being sent by U.S. attorneys. This is like, I think, as Bush was going out. What year would that have been? 2007, 8, and in the 9 transition, right? Obama came in when he came in 2008.
Yes.
So at that time, Jimmy, there was like the state of Washington, maybe someplace out east. They were writing regulations that were intended to give structure to a regulated commercial market. And some of the U.S. attorneys who were left over from the Bush administration still, U.S. attorney of the Western District, the Eastern District, like we have, we're sending letters to, it happened in Washington, like the Western and Eastern districts were completely different. You're in the Western District, they let you engage in cannabis commercial. You're in the Eastern District, they were like federally charging everyone. So there was like the U.S. attorneys were writing, what's that? Yeah. So they were writing letters to the clerks that said, like, if you're giving out these licenses, you are subject to prosecution. But they'd give that kind of notice. And even with that said...
That scares people.
Of course, but even that was 2000, whenever. Even with that said, they gave them notice. And second of all, show me a case where a city clerk for giving out a license for a cannabis business has been charged. You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah. But the fear is there, and that's all that's needed.
Yeah, but... Okay, so one step to stop that is to unschedule marijuana, because then at least you can say, well, under state law, I'm protected. There's no issue here.
Or raise taxes. When you're not sure what to do on something, let's raise taxes.
Well, Jay, let's go over the report.
That'll bring
let's
us
get
a
the
solution.
report and go over it.
We
I
will.
think it's
We're
important.
going to take a break and get the report, and then we're going to go over it. Because Tommy says we have to take a break.
Fine, Tommy.
You're listening to Planet Green Trees.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
Hey everyone, it's Amanda Joslin from the Planet Green Trees, and I'm here with the Amanda Report. We're going to be discussing a little bit about edibles and dosage. If you're a new patient, it's always nice to get an understanding of how much to take, because they taste delicious, and sometimes it's very difficult to tell how much medicine you're getting, because it doesn't taste like medicine. It tastes like candy or brownies or lozenges, lollipops. We see all kinds of different sour gummy bears and things like that. A lot of different choices when it comes to edibles. In addition to those things, you can also dive into the area of Rick Simpson oil, or RSO as it's commonly known. One of the important things to remember is that edible dosage is going to vary greatly based upon the individual user. People may be in a line, and each of them are given 100 milligram gummy bear, and if each of them eat it, they're all going to have very different experiences based upon their metabolism, based on medications that they're currently taking, based on their own just hormones. When we're talking about dosing, it's really important to consider all factors. If you're new to cannabis, your tolerance hasn't really built up that much, then you're going to want to take a low dosage and work your way up. Edibles take approximately 35, 45, sometimes an hour to kick in. So don't be fooled and eat a corner of an edible and think that it's not going to work and then just eat the rest of it, because you might wake up and it's going to be 2 days from now. And unless you are really looking for a good sleep, maybe you don't want to sleep for 2 days. So the good news, no one has ever died from the use of cannabis in the documented history. Edible is a great option to go with, and there are all different types. A basic dosage starts out at maybe 15 milligrams, and to treat chronic conditions, we go up to 100 milligrams and over. The effectiveness of this will be 4 to 6 hours, as opposed to when you're consuming and smoking it, and in that way it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours before you redose. And thank you guys for watching the Amanda Report. I'm going to go ahead and sign out now. It's sponsored by Komorn Law, and you can see us on Planet Green Trees. Thank you guys, and back to you. Amanda Joslin with the Amanda Report, sponsored by Komorn Law and aired on Planet Green Trees. Overall, our experience with Sticky was amazing. The customer service was there, the affordability, the product selection, the location of the place, and overall location feel. So the Amanda Report will give Sticky Ipsy a 9.7. Out of 10. So again, if you're in the area in Ypsilanti, stop by and check them out. You won't be sorry. And folks, this is Amanda Joslin with the Amanda Report, signing out. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
This is Amanda Joslin with Elevation Station, and you're watching Planet Green Trees TV.
And now back to more Planet Green Trees.
We are back. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Michael Komorn of Komorn Law in Planet Green Trees. It's 9:40. We've got about 3 minutes left. Now, how long are we going? 20 more minutes. Yeah. We have the report up. Jim has obtained the report of the social of the work group. That's
and there's many recommendations.
Start in the beginning. See what the intended purposes of the.
There's going to be a trigger warning here.
No, there's a so the report should have what their intention is in terms of what they're trying to accomplish in this report and why it's necessary. Please indulge us with that, will you?
Yeah. So the report starts out stating that in Michigan, only 3.8% of licensed adult use establishments in Michigan are Black or African American owned, and 1.5% are Hispanic or Latino. So the intent is to increase that number, and most people would probably tell you that they would hope to try and increase it to the point that it's proportionate with the representation of the population. So the idea isn't necessarily to inject money with this committee that was formed. It's to come up with different ideas on what the state could do in order to help encourage licensed participants being of,
brown, black.
Right, exactly.
Which is absolutely what should happen. In fact, there's a few folks that I understand there are just 4 license holders or something like that in the entire city that are Black and brown folks. So that's definitely.
What are the recommendations?
Off to the right start.
So like one of the recommendations is
before they make what are they doing? Do they identify the problems? There's obviously the history as a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Do they recognize any current blame?
No, I wouldn't say they necessarily lie blame anywhere. It's just.
Well, I mean, no one's calling out the cities.
No, not in this report.
There's a Detroit. Okay, so. I think there is a Detroit legacy program built into their social equity. So it says that there's
Detroit there is.
Yes,
That's
in the city of
Right,
Detroit.
right.
And this, so go on.
No, so that's one situation where that's a city that's opted in and is identifying the individuals that they want to have licenses, and they're requiring.
And they want a certain number of the available licenses. They want a certain number of folks, license holders, to be Black and brown population, and also legacy Detroiters. So it's also built into having a point structure. A city of Ypsi has the same type of thing, different outline, but it's a point structure, a social equity point structure based upon the application. So you would score higher if you fall into certain categories to promote
points, right.
the social equity. And so those are good things, but I think where the problem lies is like what Jamie was talking about in tax. Somehow this 1.5% tax thing got thrown in some way. I don't know what is happening right now.
Well, first I think I was really getting to the number of, we were talking about like what cities have actually opted in, and I want to know from Jim, do they identify that as a problem? Because if
they don't. But they do try to encourage, like one of the proposals is a new license type. So that would be a Class A marijuana micro business that is allowed to grow 300 plants as opposed to 150. So it's those sorts of recommendations, but I don't see anywhere in here that they call out the lack of cities opting in anywhere.
You don't blame them. Okay, well.
No, they don't blame. This is a very, objective report from the state. It's from the MRA, just stating these recommendations that the committee or the committees had come up with.
What are the recommendations? Is taxes one of them?
There is one. So a medical excise tax to reinstate the 3% tax. So there is some stuff there. There's also a recommendation to create this crowdfunding platform to help fund some of these minority-owned businesses, which honestly, I don't think is a bad idea. I think that's a really great idea, and it's something that, an investment of a little could really bring a lot for some of these businesses.
There's some limitations to crowdfunding, I think, in marijuana. There's some rules about that.
Well, I don't know anything about that.
Jamie, have you heard this before? There's limitations to kind of crowdfunding for different industries.
I'm not familiar with the specifics on that. Coming up with a reasonable source to help people out with initial funding on these projects, though, makes a lot of sense.
Well, it comes down to that exactly, doesn't it? Because if the controversy of this, no one should be disagreeing that there needs to be some hardcore looking at what's going on so that these numbers change. Okay, now the question is, how do you get there? And the question really you can ask is, how do we get here in the first place? How do we get here in the first place, and can we blame that as a basis and utilize that as the place that we find the answers to get us to where it needs to be? You know what I mean? So I guess what I'm getting at here is that the city of Detroit's making an attempt at it, but no matter what happens, you're still going to need financing.
Exactly.
And just to say you get a discount on the application, $20,000 or whatever, get to the front of the line to get a pre-qualification. It does not put money in your pocket. It doesn't get you a loan with a bank, which is hard to come by. It's not going to happen. Commercial lending for. So you got to create
a lot of people are going to who really aren't the best matches are going to be pairing up as the resource.
Yeah, and that's what I fear. That's what I fear, is that you have these folks that now are able, they want to move forward and get into the license market, and then you have these, these other folks who are maybe they'll put in money, and then the deal does not work out very favorable for the person that qualifies.
A lot of people don't have experience with that type of stuff, and because there's more guidance and more assurances of, other than having to have a majority share of, some kind of a reasonable scenarios as far as that goes. But will be some people who make some very good choices, and set themselves up for taking advantage of all that kind of stuff too. And I hope a lot more of that with a healthy relationship for the money source takes place.
Well, here you go. So what I'm saying is, without any dispute over that there needs to be something done and there's a problem, the law needs to be implemented, you're still going to have the issue of fundraising and getting resources, right? So how can you make it happen? I mean, you can't mandate others to give money to, which is what they're essentially doing by taxing, right? It's going to offset the market, but it just identifies the major problem. And I'm suggesting that, it can go back to the idea of federal banking laws. Banking Act has not been passed. There's problems. You can't get a commercial loan. But even if it was, again, we're talking about, persons that have been cut out of traditional business opportunities by virtue of their marijuana convictions, and just because you find a state law that provides a path of opportunity and a local ordinance that provides a path of opportunity doesn't mean the bank has to embrace that. So what I'm saying is, inevitably, you need either some kind of really significant kind of teamwork relationship of the city and private investors, like a quasi kind of relationship where you create a bank, City of Detroit Bank or City of Ypsilanti Bank or something like that, which is designed for people investing in, and you can have so many checks and balances in between. Which and they can create a committee to train people, give them the financing so they can open the places, fix up the places, and really manage the whole project. The idea of there's all kinds of needs that are involved here. You know what I mean? It's not enough to say you're eligible to get a license. You need to know about construction. You need to know about building codes. You need to know about environmental issues. You need to know about, a business plan and expenses. I'm not saying that nobody knows this stuff, but you need all of these things, And I say that the more that they are bifurcated, the more challenging, more cost expensive. So all these things could be accomplished as part of a social equity plan. Jim, is anyone using my ideas here?
No.
I think private funding, tax breaks. Cities, the city's got to have some kind of tax breaks.
Yeah, but that's not how these committees work.
Well, the committee can recommend whatever they want.
No,
the committees can recommend whatever they want. I'm saying to you that to me, the places that have to take have to do something different is the cities that are going to embrace this. They have to opt in, and they have to really create opportunities. And that means they may have to dig into their pocket. They may have to seek some kind of, outside investment, give tax breaks of some kind. It can be done. I don't know why. I'm not even saying there's nothing nefarious about it, but or create a private investment group that can go to the city and make a say, well, we'll buy all this property, we'll fix it up, we will sell it on a land contract to these folks, but we want to be able to train and have train and assist as part of their entry. I don't know,
to set them up for success.
I'm not trying to undermine the value of folks that don't need this, but I'm saying if you're really going to build it from the ground, to create
That's what they would do for a franchise. Like, for instance,
exactly same idea.
Tim Hortons. If
Jamie,
you want to open a Tim Hortons, they're not going to. They're
Right.
not just going to let you put up a sign.
Correct. That's not a bad. That in that collective way, you can generally minimize. You can utilize the collective for multiple groups. You can kind of minimize the oversight, whatever. But it's a cost that can be reduced, generally speaking. And I think that adds to the investment value of this, right? If you know that it's not just a guy that's going to go for it, but he's going for it, and it's not him out there, and we don't know what he can do, but he's got all these other resources that come along with it. I don't know. Jamie, am I making any sense? I was asked, it was prior to the COVID, but a city that can remain nameless was asking some questions about trying to empower its community members, and my suggestion was something to that effect, that you needed to have, I think there's two pieces here. You've got the real estate as it goes, and you got the licenses, right? So if you want to have the business owners are the license holders, and they make the money from the business. The real estate is a completely different piece. It doesn't mean that they can't own it, shouldn't own it, but I promise you that there's a lot of people that, if they knew the project was to fix buildings, but buy real estate, fix them up, and improve the city, and that's the investment, and there's businesses that are going to be able to pay the rent and buy them back. That's in inviting people from, and don't exclude that. Don't include it without, in any limited way. Maybe First Crack or something like that can go to city investments. But I think that there's a different, I don't know. The message of the social, the way Detroit did it, can have kind of a exclusionary message in a way, and I understand that in a lot of aspects. But I think a lot of people still want to help that are not from the city, and not just for financial gain, but to participate in the evolution of this exchange of the social equity. You see what I'm saying, Jamie? But I don't know. I just been rambling on about this. I didn't mean to get so crazy, but
Well, it's all good, and we touched on some of that before too. We talked about the Detroit ordinance, and it's good stuff to talk about.
My point is this: that taxes. When they say taxes, it means they need money, right, to fix this. I say private investing or city-based quasi bank of the city. Jim, what are the other suggestions that they came up with?
Well, the other suggestions I don't think are as sexy as some of the ones that we've already talked about. Making licensed cannabis companies be required to provide corporate spending plans. amend the MMFLA to establish a social equity model for the MMFLA. Integrate commercial marijuana with local economic development and land bank agencies.
I'd like to point out that the MMFLA thing is kind of in contradiction to some of the other conversations we've had about either the medical program fizzling out on its own, which it's headed toward, or there being a legislative move to combine the licenses. One that we dodged the bullet on over lame duck in the last session.
But, Jamie, it does stand true that there are still, of the cities, an inventory use, of the inventory that exists to do any kind of cannabis business, of those that are in play, most, if not all of them, require a medical license first. So if you have social equity, and even though, as of March the 1st, 2021, the state shall now grant recreational pre-qualification and licenses if you don't have a medical license first, which was amended from December of 2021. And with that being said, nothing changed in the amount of places that are available. It just meant the state would accept a license, but you're not going to get your final license until the city's given you, it's approved and signed off and everything. And even beyond that, they've opted in. And of the cities that have opted in, they've opted in for medical, they've opted in for recreational, and they have that sequence of events in order for you to get the recreational. After the amendment or the, whatever, the rule change of March the 1st, cities were not going back to the drawing board amending their ordinances, right, Jamie? So the point about the significance of, it doesn't make any sense, right? But the cities that have moved it all, they're using the MMFLA in a way to preclude people who, marijuana conviction, we don't want you, right? The ordinances are written that way, and it serves as a vetting of who they want to do business with, so to speak. See what I'm saying? So it would make sense that because like how else are you going to make a local city open up to folks that would be qualified for recreational if they continuously have the requirement of medical first? And just because the state law changes doesn't mean the local municipalities will change, right? And if they're always going to be, you got to get medical first.
Well, the state law would have to change in a way that might preclude the states from having the same kind of...
Right, but I'm saying even with this adjustment of the recreational laws, recreational licenses being accepted at a different time frame, right, sooner than later, it doesn't mean that any one person has an easier chance as who would get qualified as recreational to compete and get a license because of the remaining rules locally, which goes hand in hand with the state license. And what the point I'm making is, the state says you get a recreational license now under the state recreational rules, which when you look at, say, the state recreational rules, you got to have a local approval to do that. And the local approval doesn't say, yeah, come get your rec license. They're saying, if you want to get a rec license, you have to have a medical first. And using the medical, as a way to preclude people. All right, so that's my point. But I'm saying, so it makes sense. The state has already acted. I'm saying, I don't know. They might do something significant, but under the current design here, many people, right? The whole preclusion to get into the market is that a lot of people, caregivers in particular, I'm using that as a very broad general sense, cannot obtain their own licenses in the medical because they may have, because the MMFLA licenses have requirements of felonies and misdemeanors, financial capital, and showing verified income and attestations from the Treasury Department showing that you don't have any liens or, issues with, financial vulnerability, so to speak. They're not going to give you a license for a controlled substance if you got debt to the IRS and can't pay your bills. That means that, Anyways, I mean, that's just my take on how they interpret it and use this moral turpitude thing, and it's a denial, whatever. That's all internal policy stuff. And it has changed a lot. I think that the acceptance of things are not, but that doesn't change what we're talking about, Jamie. There's certain, the social equity says we're not going to use your you know, your criminal history with marijuana against you. We're not going to use the fact that you, you know, were kept out of employment theoretically, and haven't had a regular paycheck because you were felonized for marijuana or what have you. You know what I mean? Jim, jump in. I feel like I'm talking too much.
No, I think you said it all, Michael. And it's 10 o'clock. We got to wrap it up.
You got listen. Let's do some other talking. Alan, I didn't text you the thing I wanted to text you.
Try, Tommy.
How's your Zoom?
Welcome back, Alan.
Thank you. It was good.
Don't leave, Jimmy.
You know, we discussed the very mean article about Rick that Ben put out in his magazine.
Well, I didn't read the mean article or anything, so why don't you give us a little snippet of what that entailed?
I put it in the chat.
Did you? Okay.
So that it could be discussed and or shared and read. It includes things.
Is it
It includes things such as Rick has been sucking Brisbo's balls.
Oh, I saw that. That was posted in the Safer Mish listserv.
I want to see it.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I responded to it.
Let's see.
The thing is, it's kind of like, you know, last week I put up that you know, the ambiguously gay duo parody for me and Rick that he put his magazine 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And like now I thought it was funny, kind of the tension was gone. And I wasn't included in this, so it's not like it's me, but I don't get, other than the obvious, like he feels kind of insecure that, you know, Rick is kind of considered the cannabis media person in the movement community state.
So he's trying
And
to. He said something mean because he's
he
like.
might be a little insecure about it. And
Yeah.
I mean, jealous. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't understand why else he would be so mean and attack you. But in the same magazine,
Publicly like that is pretty intense.
in the same magazine, the January 2021 thing, the Biden on the cover with wearing a Pope's hat and devil's horns with angel's wings. There's also the regular John Sinclair article, and in it he uses a lot of stuff that Rick has been talking about and quotes Rick in it very positively, and you know, supports a lot of stuff that Rick has been saying about things going on in the movement, the industry, and that type of stuff. So if you do pick up that magazine, read the John Sinclair article and use that as your image for Rick, and not this ridiculously very mean thing that.
And this isn't Safer Mish up in here. I don't. Your thread.
There was part of that thread went into Safer Mish, and it was posted by Paul Samways.
Oh, okay.
And I guess he was quoting that article. I didn't realize he was quoting that article, so I responded to Paul directly, and I guess I owe him an apology. Because I thought it was Paul saying Rick was kissing Brisbo's balls.
That's inappropriate to say.
Was sucking on him, you know.
Well,
not even just licking, he was sucking.
Yeah, he kissed him a little bit first, probably.
You kiss before you suck, though. It's inappropriate to suck before kissing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's all about sequence.
Some people may gallop, you know, right toward getting down to business.
Alan, what did you say? I want to know what you how you address this. I'm reading this article right here. Is there just one page? Because it seemed like there should be more.
I just said it was an improper personal attack, and it reflected poorly on the author.
Mm-hmm.
Which remains true.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But it came out of nowhere. It's not like it's unusual for Ben, but he hasn't done something like that in quite a while.
Yeah, I haven't heard of anything in a while, so yeah.
And in fact, I've had some decent exchanges with him. It's not like I've totally become buddies with him or anything, but the tension hasn't really been there. He hasn't been giving me any shit for a couple of years, so.
Yeah. I hadn't really heard anything about Ben for a couple of years, quite frankly.
Well, he's back.
Well, you know, for 10 years he's been putting out this magazine. That's a cool thing. He's done things that are worthy of some, you know, praise and some like contribution to the movement. He's paid for some of these local petition drives. He's held important discussions. He's gotten lobbyists sometimes. I mean, sometimes he's done some really stupid things, but he fucks up anything that he could be getting, some good recognition for by like doing weird shit like this all the time. So this is like 10 years of that magazine every month. Yeah.
So you just spent the last 3 minutes plugging his mag because everybody now is going to be like, ooh, I wonder what that article is, and they're going to go right to his site.
So I was talking about this. I was at the store in Lansing. In fact, somebody dropped off the magazines and then saw it and brought it up to me. And one of our staff associates there, Adam, who's been around, kind of been aware of what's been going on in this movement for the last few years, recognized that Rick and I and others have been getting shit for years from different directions, and that if nothing else, that's kept our names in circulation and helped to
that's true.
Bring some attention to a lot of the stuff we were doing that way anyway.
That's true.
So,
you mean hater news is good news?
Any press is good press. That's the theory.
And Rick's not a big fan of this, but he's not necessarily, hurt by it or intimidated by it or anything like that. So he'll take his name being discussed a little bit more. And again, he's in the magazine otherwise being praised by John Sinclair. I think that's a lot more substantive than, the obvious jealousy or insecurity or mean spirit or whatever else is going on with this other thing.
Not to suggest that any kind of competition exists, but in the longest running podcast / radio show, we did have some other encounters with Ben Horner on the Planet Green Trees. Captured some good moments.
I wrote that article that I quoted him in, and many lawyers, and that was then sent to the state and used against Ben in some other capacities, and he, in part, I think for a while was upset with me because of that. But
I think there
hadn't shown up as an issue for a while. We actually talked about it, once or twice. But I'm sorry, go ahead, Michael.
No, I was going to say, I think there was a consensus to try to sue him for slander even because he was so... Alan,
he pulled some more shit, and brought us all, a group of us, including Robin and Michael, myself and Rick and some others in on some, just absolute made-up bullshit,
Yeah, I think I jumped out. I didn't want to be involved, but it was...
I jumped out of it too, and I think people abandoned it just because...
It was unnecessary, but...
the time and resources necessary to go through with all that stuff probably wasn't...
No, right.
Worth it at some point, but...
But here's the thing. So, but he also was at a time when it was quite controversial, I think, with the issue of bona fide doctor-patient relationship, and there was some involvement with...
He's doing a lot of the hotel stuff, and people were still getting charged and convicted because their doctor relationship was being invalidated because of where they met up with the doctor to get the recommendation letter signed.
He messed up a lot of stuff with that doctor mail.
Really, it's the interpretation of the courts and the willingness of the prosecutors and all that stuff to go there. But it still was a reality that was happening. So that was the point of. It's not like I agree. That a licensed doctor couldn't be anywhere and recommend.
Well, of course they can, but that just was not. I guess. I know it happens, and I know it was part of the evolution, and that's how it was.
Yeah.
That was just how it was at the time. But what that did was it created a lot of problems for doctors going forward.
And patients who had been arrested.
And many patients. And it's why Michael created that standard for doctors, so that all the bullshit that gets thrown out to confuse things and to keep people in trouble, could be covered. The follow-up thing, the location, the solid location, all of the.
But anyways, my point was, I remember I remember we had some choice quotes around that discussion of what was the appropriate, response to that, and because I think his business model at the time may not have been, the best for the state of the law at the time, and they brought concerns and stuff. And he made some comments that we have documented kind of, whatever. But it was just, really, it's a combination. I was trying to bring up how we caught some good material. I think it's probably stuff that he regrets a little bit, but also that we've also got the longest running podcast, and it's always been good. And you should try to book some of the guests for us too, and stop just taking them all the cabbage. I ask every week.
What the heck?
Used to be involved in it. It's fine. It's a
Yeah,
good time
where
to guilt
have you
him. Guilt him right now.
Jeez, oh, Pete.
Jewish
Are we broadcasting right now?
Jewish,
Come on.
Jewish mother.
Yeah, we're doing it live right now. Let's talk.
We should remind our audience that if you want to see more broadcasts, if the audience wants to see more broadcasts like this, they should click the like button and also click the subscribe button so they get notified of the new broadcast.
Yes, good idea.
I think definitely, amidst other people I could think of, but having Tiffany, the person I described, who has a fairly extensive and recent, scientific background on a lot of the things surrounding cannabis processes and actions and concentrates and
Let's get her
quality
booked.
control and.
Let's get her on the show.
She's been in other states and worked for some other companies, and has got some very good perspective and interesting shit to talk about. One of the things she's going to talk about on Jazz Cabbage next week is the Delta 8 phenomena.
Yeah, that stuff's awesome. That's the bee's knees.
Well, man, it's kind of controversial, so I think it's.
Oh, so we should watch the Jazz Kabosh first.
Watch Jazz Kabosh and then continue the conversation on Jazz or onto the Planet
On the
Green Trees.
PGT.
Why don't you get her on why don't you get her on as a guest, because I'll be able to ask some questions much better, and we'll get a much better conversation going on.
And I will have my samples by then.
And she possibly would get involved in a conversation on any other show, for sure.
Jamie, when does Jazz Cabbage Cafe come on the air? What's the regular hours for that?
It's live.
We're having some interference.
I'm sorry. Am I good?
No, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I'm teasing.
We're live on Facebook Tuesdays at 4 o'clock at the Jazz Cabbage Cafe page. And then thereafter, it's on like 14 platforms now. All the common podcast like platforms. In segments and in the full show.
We need to get the Planet Green Trees out on more platforms to get a wider.
We are on a ton of platforms.
You don't need to
We got some Spotify, we got some podcasts,
we've got
iTunes,
and context. It's not
Shoot. We're everywhere, Alan.
I've taken the position that we're not competition. Jamie's competing against us.
Yeah.
It's not comparable. He's already made the admission. He's using all of our slogans and stuff. I saw them.
There's some really good shows out there, man. Medical Mondays.
Whatever.
420 Post.
I'm not saying
there's some great guys out there, but they're not as good as. Let me just tell you guys that they do not have the spread like what we have, and they certainly don't have the same community entertainment nor host. So that, my friends, is what makes us unique.
It's unfortunate because
especially the spread.
Unfortunate because
everybody compliments each other,
That's not true. You say that, but it's not really.
In this cannabis podcast community of
It's
Michigan.
very complimentary.
In the spirit of no
complimentary
jealousy
with an E.
and really genuinely a objective observer in the world and having no affiliation to parties. I'm talking about your show. I don't know if you guys are the same. Maybe you'll say you do. I don't know. Not everybody's the same. But listen, I have no ill will with that. Encourage it, but remember.
Remember where you come.
Yeah, but remember that the show's split off because you guys are in the bubble, and you want to be in a bubble of bubbleness, and it's fine. It's all good, and we're trying to keep it a little more objective. And it's ironic. I mean, they may the division, but in most of the situations, I think we agree on. Like you at least, not everybody, but that's not good, bad, or otherwise. We're just a question of I don't know. I think of
You know what? Sometimes I think it's kind of like, those pool noodles? And it's almost like you have one of those pool noodles in a circle around you, and we cannot quite penetrate that pool noodle.
Listen, Jamie, we love your show. We're glad you come on our show. And we're all interested in the same kind of topics, and it's fun when we can engage.
Even if we have the same topic, the discussions are of a different angle. I mean, you definitely obviously have the expertise from a legal perspective, and there's other lawyers typically on here, and there's other people who view these issues from that perspective here. Jim, for example.
Listen, all I'm saying is this:
the conversation's different than how we approach it necessarily on a different show. So
I got it, and that's fine. And there's no nobody should try to do it like the other person. Like everyone's got their own dance and voice. But it wouldn't be a bad. Like some of the guests we should probably do when we get a second chance. They get a double promotion during the week. They can watch themselves here and there.
Yep.
They can warm up with the amateurs and then do some pro stuff later on.
Especially if you guys get some questions and stuff, that maybe they want to incorporate into their next appearance, Like there's some other things that, oh, shoot, that was a great point to bring up, and we should talk more about that.
This was a lot of fun. It was very interesting. Too bad it has to last. Hey, how about we continue the conversation?
That's right.
Thursday night on Planet Green Trees with host Michael.
You're on to something.
One of the things I would want to interview them about is their experience on the Cabbage Cafe.
That would take up half of the interview for sure, because
they were going to rave about all of the hosts and the discussion and everything.
How disappointed they were.
That would be funny. I think I could write a comedy skit about that. Like we get them on there, and I said trying to get them to badmouth you guys, and just keep it in that kind of vein of come on, Jamie's really not. He says he's bad, whatever. Like the Saturday Night Live experience that. I'm kidding. We can talk that out too. Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live in the tuxedo and the top hat. All right, listen, I hear Tommy yawning. What does that mean? I heard it a little while ago. I ignored it. I remembered. Now, that's got to be it, right? So
he's supposed to make sure we don't go past 10 o'clock tonight. That's all.
That's fine. That's all good.
We
did. We're there.
All right, let me know about those orgs, .orgs, okay, Jamie, tomorrow, ASAP. Timeline, self-imposed. All right, listen.
The org that just formed is in. Confirmed.
All right. I don't know, fine. Give me
want other orgs?
So someone else has got.
We want all kinds of orgs.
All right, so listen, we're calling it Alan. Final thoughts. Komorn Law sweatshirt guy.
The more orgs, the better. Orgs are good.
Excellent.
You can't have too many orgs.
No.
Okay. Right. Play on words. Jim, final words. Jim, you wanted to leave a long time ago. Thanks for sticking out. I appreciate it.
I'm a little tired.
Okay.
Looking forward to bed.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we all realize how important our Prime memberships are. If you have one,
they're very important.
Yeah, that is true.
If you want to remain fulfilled.
If you want to remain fulfilled and
not
get removed from your Prime membership, remember Jim Powers.
I'm your guy.
Yeah, if you have any issues with your membership.
Or, for example, if you
call
lose
into the show.
Maybe you lose your Prime and all of a sudden you don't understand why and you realize you pissed Jim Powers off.
Yeah.
Just remember...
It's not how it works.
That's karma now.
$10.
That's karma.
$10 a month for Prime.
Your phone.
It's worth every penny, Alan.
All right.
Every penny.
Jim, what's the story with the cafeterias that are allowed to have inside dining inside the Amazon? How are they playing that out?
I have no idea.
What do you mean you have no idea?
I have no idea.
You work from
I saw like a board, some social media. And they're like, someone brought that up. They're making a joke and so it was like someone criticizing that.
Yeah, because of the restaurants.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
And then someone was like, please help us.
Yeah.
Please help us here inside of Amazon. Like, it's really bad, without trying to be identified, because, like a little peep, because they're afraid that they're going, who was it that spoke bad against?
I'm unaware of anything like that going on. But.
All right, fine. You get your tracking device on. You don't want to talk about it. It's fine. All right. All right, good. Steve, what are your final thoughts? Come on. Indulge us as a final departing.
Ready for bed.
Jamie, who was your hero? Did you have a hero? Did we come up with that?
I piggybacked on you and John Sinclair.
Who was yours, Michael?
Yep, go ahead.
I don't know. I don't think I'm like my dad or something like that. Somebody who,
Yeah.
Something like that. Just like it's a regular person who's just tries to do the right thing. and they can't. And despite the challenge, I don't know. It's not, what I mean, that kind of shit. People that, and I tell you, like, I'm totally, like, all the people that I respect as artists or leaders or whatever, I almost don't want to know them, and I know that their greatness is part of a deeply complicated, flawed existence that they have. You know what I mean? It's just the reality.
Yes,
like, I don't know.
agree.
But, anyways. So, hero's a tough word because, they got to have everything. Like, it's not like you can't find, we were using elusive, but I'm saying, like, to really, you can admire people, I guess, but they're not, it doesn't mean they got, they got it all figured out ever. You know what I mean? But,
Used to be one of those things where, you like when I was younger, and I'm feeling when I was younger, I would always pick out, like, for instance, if something I thought I wanted improvement on, for instance, time management.
Sure.
You find anybody that you see manages their time well, and you just watch. So, like, hero, mentor, like, people all have these different qualities, and I think, for me anyway, as I get older, it's something that you really got to think harder about because you see more. And,
Sure.
and you learn more about people and life and things, and you got to look at.
Right, I think you're kind of, you're not going to ever be like someone else. You're building your own self, so you're going to try to, take from different things that, and there's nothing wrong, that's good. I think, finding those qualities, identifying the good in them, but, it's not, that's
And
good.
then incorporating. So you have to constantly create, that drive or that next thing. Because when you're an adult, what do you do? Who's your mentor? How do you learn? How do you stay motivated? Those are all real hard things. Like, you end up sometimes just clocking in, clocking out, and that's just it.
Yes, I mean, you're speaking of the challenge of all humans, which is like how to live a wise life.
Yeah.
Why are we here? And while we're here, what are we going to do? And what's meaningful, and being able to, but...
Dan is, we say, is this beginning or is this the end?
Dan is very wise.
Yes.
He's
All right, fine.
To be continued next week. But
right.
Maybe on Wednesday, maybe on Thursday. But happy birthday to Lucy.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. Lucy in the skies.
With diamonds.
Yep, that's part of it. That's part of it. She gets caught. That's a lot of... Yep.
Let's see.
All right. Shut it down.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night,
Thanks for
everyone.
playing. Thanks
See
for
you
playing
next
along.
week.
Sleep well.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. michiganmedicalmarijuana.org.
Before you plead, call me, Attorney Michael Komorn.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture has returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
We have launched.
We have completely launched. We've started the show, and it is Planet Green Trees. We're about to embark 2 hours of medical marijuana and marijuana reform in Michigan, and nationally and internationally, and even in Spaceland. There's an argument that we evolved from the cannabis plant. Let's just be honest, okay?
Ow, what's going on, everybody? How y'all doing?
420th episode.
If you're a connoisseur, you're going to want the good stuff. And if you want the good stuff, you're going to go for the mom and pop stuff because that's the good stuff.
It's just a real pleasure to come here and congratulate you on your 420th show, and thank you for having me on a few times over the 420.
Dr. Bud Green here. Welcome to our
Komorn Law. Michael Komorn is one of the top attorneys in Michigan that has experience and dedication in criminal defense law. Komorn Law can take your case from arrest all the way from trial, appeals, and even to the Supreme Court. The team at Komorn Law has the compassion and the experience you can look to for help in your time of need. Komorn Law has over 25 years experience in criminal defense. We have accomplished numerous legislative changes through community involvement and lobbying. Our award-winning law firm has a reputation like no other for keeping overreaching government accountable and in check. We have built Komorn Law for people who need lawyers to stand up to the system, fight back and win. Once we become your lawyer, you become a part of our family. Don't settle for less, just ask our clients. Komorn Law, the best damn criminal defense lawyers, period.